Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. What's that saying? Something about getting it done is better than doing it perfectly, or just get it done, basically. Hello everyone, my name is Cassie and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so excited to be starting this. It is currently January the 8th. I know that because it's my boyfriend's birthday today, and I thought that I would start off by doing a January TBR. So get cozy, grab a cup of tea or coffee or wine or water, whatever your beverage of choice is. Get cozy. Now you might be thinking, she has an Australian accent, but she's getting cozy. She's got her blanket. She's wearing a jumper. I am Australian, but I live in the Netherlands. So it is currently winter. It is cold outside. So cozy is the vibe. Also, excuse my voice if I'm sounding a little crusty, looking a little dusty. I definitely am. I've been down bad with a spicy cough for the past week. I haven't left my house in 6 days. I'm leaving the house after I film this video. Now, a little bit about me before we jump right into it. When I was younger, I used to love reading. I remember I would just get lost in the world of books. And then obviously you get into school and they start forcing you to read books, especially books that you don't like, aren't interested in. And you quite easily lose your love of books, unfortunately. Then during lockdown, I definitely picked up some Colleen Hoover books and kind of started reading again, got back into it. The one book that I really remember got me back hooked into reading was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Love that book. I really need to reread it. But last year, I definitely started getting into reading. I moved to the Netherlands. When I moved here, I didn't have like a physical job to go to. I had a lot of spare time on my hands, no friends. It was cold. I spent a lot of time indoors by myself with my books, which I didn't mind, but I really didn't track my reading a lot. So it was really hard to kind of like keep track of actually how many books I read. I think it was only about 30 or so. Really not many compared to a lot of people, but still a lot for me who hasn't read a lot since I was young. But this year I am really determined to record my readings and my ratings and have a really nice end of year wrap up of what I've read, what I've really enjoyed. Ow. I love a romance book. I'm not much of a fantasy girl. I'll dabble. I love a mystery, thriller, murder kind of whodunit vibe. Just started getting into some darker kind of genres as well. Also, something probably to note is I am very much a Kindle girly. I do love a physical book, but just based on the space that we have and the fact that I don't know how long I'm going to be here and all those sort of factors, I am very much a Kindle girly. So let's start off this January TBR. I've got 4 books on my January TBR. The first being The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I actually started this in December and I was hooked right away. It is such an interesting multi-POV story about a girl who goes missing in the woods at summer camp in America. But what's interesting is that her brother went missing in the same woods 14 years prior. I actually have already finished this book, but I'll tell you more about it in the monthly wrap-up that I'll do at the end of the month. If you haven't already read this, I would say definitely get your hands on it if you love a little mystery thriller, because it is very good. The next is The Emperor by, I don't know how to say this, Runix? I don't know, but it's the 3rd book in the Darkverse series. This is a rival mob dark romance series, and I have never really read anything like this. I've read some of those fantasy kind of ones where it's like, you know, 2 different teams or 2 different worlds and they're kind of fighting, or that's the conflict. Whereas this is 2 different mob families, and I am loving it. Like I said, this is the 3rd one in the series. I devoured the 1st and the 2nd. I think they could be a little bit more short and concise. I think that sometimes the main characters in a dialogue is a little bit too much for me personally, but overall it is such a gripping story. It can be quite graphic, and there's definitely some trigger warnings, so you might just want to check up on that. But the first two books follow, oh my god, what are their names? Tristan and something? Oh, Morana. Okay, the first two books follow Morana and Tristan, but then this third book that I'm reading is following Dante and Amara. So it is really cool to get their perspective as well and see kind of their story and get more into depth. And so far, love Dante. Like from the first two books that I've read, he is like just the most precious, protective man in the most like sweet, nurturing kind of way, rather than that overprotective kind of scary, bearing vibe that Tristan kind of gives, which is not my cup of tea. I usually always have some sort of audiobook on the go as well, especially when I'm doing housework or riding my bike to commute around the city. I usually will listen to some sort of audiobook. I just started Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which is the first book in the Maple Hill series. Although I'm not sure that I'm loving the audiobook, so I might just download it on my Kindle and start reading it there. But this is just a hockey sports romance. I actually have no idea what it's about. I do quite like going into my books rather blind. I like to know kind of generally what they're about, but this is obviously just some sort of sports romance, and I always like to kind of have one of them on the go at all times, just for when it's just a little mind-numbing entertainment in the background. And speaking of cheesy little romances, there are two new releases in January that I might be kind of keen to read. I probably won't get to both of them, but at least one of them. Either Out of the Woods by Anna Bonham Young, which I haven't read any of her books yet. Okay, I just read what it's about, and basically two childhood lovers who are eventually married, and they have spent their entire lives together basically. The female main character wants to basically prove her independence, and they're going through a little bit of a rough patch, especially there's some grief themes involved as well, and they basically go on this hike together that apparently couples do when they're in a bit of a rocky patch. So it does sound like that could be really cute and entertaining. Or the other one could be Beg, Borrow, Steal by Sarah Adams, which again, I've never actually read anything by Sarah Adams, and this is actually the third book in the When in Rome series, which I haven't actually read the other two either, but I think it's just like an interconnected standalone, so I think that's no worries at all. But it's about two teachers who are also neighbours, a bit of a enemies to lovers kind of vibe. So either of those could be really good to finish off January, but those are my 4 books on my TBR for January. But comment down below your January TBR or hopefuls, or whichever book you are most excited to get started with. I am so excited to get into these books. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope that next time I am on here, I've got a little bit more energy. I'm looking a little bit more alive. But I am so excited to actually start this channel and to build hopefully an amazing community around me where we can all share what books we are loving, hating, and just share all our opinions. And I will see you next time.